once again, lovers and listeners of Adamimogo 107.7 FM, Ido-Ekiti. It's another beautiful moment to, discuss and engage in issues that affect us, especially when it comes to Nigeria being the center of the discussion. My name is Oladoyin Ayegbusi. Welcome once again to this edition of the follow-up on Adamimogo 107.7 FM, right here at Olojujo's Palace, Ido-Ekiti, Ekiti State. So, today is going to be a very special edition of the program because it's going to be me and you listening to me at this time, having the conversation. And we're going to be having a second part of the conversation on the tax reform bills that was proposed by the president earlier this year. So, yesterday we had conversations around it, and we had discussions with the financial analyst, Dr. Shola Ogunshina, who explained in detail some of the benefits and some of the things that are there for citizens to enjoy, and some of the how it will affect the citizens, not just the citizens, the government, business communities, and many other stakeholders involved in all of this. So today we're going to be having a second discussion of these bills, the development so far, and we're going to be having the conversation between I and you, like I said earlier. So that's going to be what we are going to be discussing this morning. But first, my name is Oladoyin Ayegbusi, and we're live streaming on Facebook. You can be part of the conversation as well. Throw your opinions, your suggestions on what you feel. The bill took another turn yesterday, or the development took another turn yesterday as a result of some of the opinions and stances of some experts and stakeholders in the process of this bill. But first, during the town hall meeting yesterday, which was organized by a media house, it reeled out the benefits of the tax reform bills on high income earners and NNIS. It drew out the benefits on households and individuals, including the youth, on SMEs, then SMEs, then on businesses and investment, as well as subnational government. We're going to be having that conversation as well. We're going to be, revealing some of the outcome of the bill. But let's get through. Let me start by giving you a background as to the development so far. You would remember that these tax reform bills proposed by President Bola Tinubu have been a subject of intense debate and controversy in Nigeria, especially in the past few weeks. These bills have which have passed the second reading at the National Assembly, aims to streamline the country's tax system, eliminate double taxation, and encourage private sector investment. One of the major concerns raised by critics is the timing of these bills. Senator Adamimogo Ndume was so hard on the timing of this bill, questioning the timing. He questioned the timing, stating that it is not the right time to introduce such bill. He said was that until hunger is dealt with, that is when bills of such can be implemented and be introduced. Senator Adamimogo Ndume is a senator from Borno State, and is a major concern or a major voice from the northern part of the country, which so many have believed that the bill is anti-nut. So let's hear the concerns of Senator Adamimogo Ndume, then we'll proceed from there.
One, which is very important, is the timing. I disagree with the timing because Nigerians are struggling to survive, and whether you like it or not, because most of these people think that I don't know anything. So this time around, my discussion will be on a local basis. Supposing I didn't go to school. These reforms that you are talking about, Nigeria has some issues. Let's say like it's sick, and the president is the doctor. Go to the doctor, or you choose your doctor, and you tell him that I'm suffering from malaria, stomach pain, this, and most of it is hunger. So, and I'm hungry, very, very hungry. So is it right for him just to say, okay, give him anesthesia, let's operate on him? He will die. Or if he doesn't have enough blood in his body, and you are saying that he should donate some blood, that is like tax. Tax is like, okay, look at you, I was here with you. I said, look, this problem with taxation is like, okay, they are going to take away. But if you allow me, feed me well, and that is Nigeria, and I'm okay, there will be too much blood in my body that I need to go and donate some even. So you don't even have to ask me. Our forefathers were paying taxes. In the north, we pay taxes. So it's not like we are being running away from taxes. We pay taxes. Nigerians, every responsible tax will want to pay tax, but the timing is wrong. That is number one. We are the cheese and it would be before.
So according to the senator, the timing is wrong, and his voice has been so loud, especially starting from several plenary sessions to giving his take on in a televised interview where he was very very opposive of the bill. So not just him, the Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum has also expressed his opposition to these bills, stating that they are against the interest of the North. According to him, he says only Lagos and Rivers State are beneficiaries of this bill. Take a listen to him as well.
Right out of Babylon. I'm a strong member of APC. If you can count two governors between 2019 to 2023 that were in support of Tinubu, you can mention Professor Zulum. I was the first governor to come out publicly and say that power must go to South. This is the misconception that is ongoing. Unfortunately, the president was told by many that the North are against him. Is that a fact? No, it's not a fact. 60.2% of his vote came from North. Are you getting what I'm saying? On this tax issue, there's a lot of misconception. During the neck, we had the neck, and we advised federal government to force for a moment in order to have deeper consultations with stakeholders. That was our own statement. Then later on, people have turned it upside down. But I want you to believe that consultation is central to democracy. It is a beggar's belief that in a democratic setting, we are begging for the right to consult or to be consulted. This is only what has happened. We haven't said anything, but we felt that the provision, VAT provision in the tax law, which clearly stated that VAT allocation should be based on derivation. The proposed bill further stated that 60% of the VAT tax will be shared based on derivation. I'm not an economist, but based on the calculations that we did, only Lagos State and Rivers State will benefit.
So that's the reaction there coming from the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, who is also raising objections as to the provisions of that bill. But while this are going, while there are criticism trailing this bill, especially from the northern part of the country, the committee in charge, that's the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, led by Taiwo Yedele, who's the chairman, has reeled out some benefit, which I'm going to read out to you as well. Some benefit of this tax reform bill, according to them, they say probably people do not understand the lot of packages that are in this bill, and that's what Dr. Ogunshina reiterated yesterday when he was on the show yesterday. So let's look at the benefit of this bill on individuals and households, including the youth. First on the list is that complete exemption of low-income earners up to 1 million, that's 83,000 per month from PAYE. Then reduced PAYE tax for those earning a monthly salary of 1.7 million or less, 0.5 or 0% VAT on food, healthcare, education, electricity, generation and transmission, VAT exemption on transportation, renewable baby products, sanitary towels, rent and fuel product, tax break for wage award and transport subsidy on low income. The list goes on and on. Then the benefit for tax reform, the benefit of the tax reform bills on SME, that's small medium enterprise. It says increase in tax exception threshold for small business from annual turnover of 25 million to 5 million. Exception from company income tax from small businesses at tax at 0%. Exemption from withholding tax deduction on income. Exemption from requirement to deduct and account for tax on payment on vendors. They still have the list goes on and on. Then let's touch on the business and investment benefit, or the benefit it has on business and investment. Reduction of corporate income tax rate from 30% to 25%, and harmonization of earmarked taxation at a reduced rate. Unilateral tax credit for income earners or earned abroad to avoid double taxation, and impute VAT credit on access and services to reduce cost production. It's quite a detailed benefit when you look at the list. It's such a long list of benefits there. Probably many Nigerians do not even understand the basis or the what informed or the formulation of this bill. It is left for us as Nigerians to go through this and see. Yes, there are concerns. I even heard somebody say that what the federal government is doing is trying to get 10% of your income and what have you. So it is for us to understand what these things are, and the committee has oftentimes, been reiterating it. Unlike yesterday during the town hall meeting on the tax reform bill, the chairman of the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, Taiwo Edele, urged Nigerians not to allow few grey areas in the proposed tax reform bills to cause obstruction to the passage of the bill. It was so affirmative about it. It says controversies have trailed the bill since it was sent to the National Assembly, with prominent northern leaders vehemently rejecting the bills on the claims that they are against the region. He also brought in where the National Executive Council, that's the NEC, consisting of the 36 state governors, has also advised Tinubu to withdraw the bill to allow for a wilder consultation. Don't also forget that there are cases or there are instances as to or there are criticism trailing the bill because of consultation, which the chairman of the tax reform committee has addressed. So, speaking yesterday, Oyedele, who is the leader, noted that over 200 transformative provisions that can fix the country are in those bills. He made a lot of revelations and simplified and broke it down as to what many Nigerians should understand. Let's give you some part of what the chairman of the Presidential Tax Reform Bill, Taiwo Edele, said. Let's take a listen to him.
Mr. President set up the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee August 2023 with a very clear mandate. Our economy is underperforming. We're not growing enough, poverty is widespread, and we do not have inclusive and sustainable growth, and there can be what we call shared prosperity unless we address those issues. While we face a myriad of issues, the fiscal system, including taxation, clearly is one major area. And if I want to summarize it, I would say that the fiscal and tax system is like the knee on the neck of our economic prosperity as a people. It's important to state that the primary objective for these reforms is not to generate more revenue. I see people get that wrong every time. It is to fix the economy in a way that there can be shared prosperity. If your businesses are growing, expanding within and outside the shores of this country, if our individuals are earning income and thriving, then taxes will be a natural consequence of that prosperity. That is really the fundamental objective of the reforms. So we know that the work we're asked to do for our country is such an enormous amount of work, but really very critical and important. If we were going to take all our time, we would have asked for about 4 or 5 years. We knew Nigeria has no luxury of time. We decided we should put in all our efforts to get this done within 1 year. And I can say to you in that 1 year, we have over 100 members, including more than 40 students across 22 universities in Nigeria. We're represented by people from all the geopolitical zones, government institutions, private sector, trade organizations, and so on and so forth. We're working every single day. There were days that we're having meetings until late midnight because you can see Nigerians who love their country, they're passionate about their country, and they can't wait for us to start fixing these problems. One of the deliverables of this work is the realization that we have tax laws that are very old and no longer fit for purpose, including those we inherited from our colonial masters. So we said we'll use the opportunity of this reform to rewrite those laws. So they are the laws made by Nigerians for Nigeria to be able to drive our prosperity going forward. And that's what led to the 4 bills that we have before the National Assembly today that Sheon had properly summarized. In terms of the benefits of those bills, I will quickly just read through them. So for households and individuals, including our young population, these bills are looking to exempt low-income earners completely from tax, those who earn about 83,000 naira per month or 1 million naira a year. It will reduce the PAYE for middle-income earners of about 1.7 million naira per month or below will pay less taxes. Combined, these two is reducing the tax burden on more than 90% of workers in both private and public sector. There will be 0% VAT, no VAT on food, more than 600 food items, on healthcare, on education. We do not want our people to have to decide between buying garri to give their kid and buying pencil or eraser for them to go to school. There will be 0% VAT on electricity generation and transmission, and there will be VAT exemption on transportation, on renewable energy, CNG, baby product, sanitary towels, rent, and fuel products. These items constitute more than 4 out of 5 consumption by the average household. If you go down the ladder of society, this is where they spend almost the entire money that they earn because they don't earn a lot. In other words, our most vulnerable and poorest citizens will not have to worry about VAT. But so we can balance the books. On non-essential items, that those of us who are not so poor tend to consume a lot, we are adjusting the VAT rate upward to partly compensate for what government will lose by granting exemption to the majority of consumption by our population. There will be tax break for wage award and transport subsidy to low-income earners. There will be tax incentive for the employers to create more employment so they can employ more people. There will be exemption of stamp duties on rent of about 10 million actually or less. There will be PAYE exemption on our armed forces who are fighting insecurity. There will be friendly rules for remote workers as well as digital nomads. We want Nigerians in Nigeria to get jobs within the international business process outsourcing so they can earn dollars while they stay here. They don't have to make that difficult choice of relocating abroad. There will also be clarity on taxation of digital assets, including how to avoid double taxation and allowing people who play in that sector to get deduction when they make losses. For small businesses, There will be increase in tax exemption threshold. Currently, 25 million is exempt. We are moving that to 50 million. Partly to recognize the devaluation and depreciation of the naira. There will be exemption of income tax for small businesses. They will pay 0% companies income tax. There will be exemption from withholding tax. Also for small businesses, they don't have to charge withholding tax. Neither do they have to deduct it on their vendors. There will be exemption for them in terms of deducting withholding tax from their vendors. They will not have to account for VAT when they invoice their customers. They will have the opportunity of simplified accounts that does not have to be audited to reduce the cost of doing business for them should they have to file returns. There will be the office of the tax ombudsman to protect these people when they are being harassed by tax officers. They cannot defend themselves. They do not have the money to afford lawyers. Neither can they go through the court process. They will be protected under these bills. Tax disputes escalated to the tax ombuds will be resolved within 14 days. Should the tax authority not cooperate, the law says that the dispute will be resolved in the favor of the taxpayer. There will be harmonization of taxes and repeal of multiple taxes, over 50 of them, placing burden on the most vulnerable small businesses and poor population. These bills plan to outlaw cash payments of taxes as well as physical roadblocks. We are in 2024. We should not have to put nails on wood and throw it on the road to collect taxes. We are more than that. We are better than that. There will be the opportunity for small businesses to formalize their businesses should they want to grow and scale, which is what we want for them. Today, the tax provisions discourages formalization because you are punished. You pay twice as much the tax. These bills are fixing that problem. For businesses and investments, these bills are proposing the reduction of companies' income tax rate from 30% to 25% over the next 2 years. It's proposing harmonizing various earmarked taxes from education tax to engineering and science to information technology to police trust fund, and the list goes on, that businesses have to pay. When businesses have to pay almost more than 80% of their profit, it is not surprising that more businesses are not being set up. And those that were set up before are beginning to think twice, either exiting or scaling down their operations. These bills will introduce economic development incentive and priority sector for us to grow the sectors that are important to our economy so they can be shared prosperity. These bills will provide friendly tax regime for restructuring and reorganization of businesses. Today, if you have a group of companies and you decide to restructure them, you have to face huge tax bills in trying to make your businesses efficient. These bills would address that. There will be clarity that when you run your business, the taxman cannot just show up and say, we want to audit you for 15 years. Status of limitation will be clearly stated, can only be exceeded where there is deliberate misstatement of your affairs. In other words, you need to be honest in your affairs. There will be faster refunds. Many companies today have billions of naira that is stuck with the tax authority. They cannot get the refund, and they're borrowing at 40% to run their businesses. That does not make sense. These bills will address that problem. We also have provisions for companies that need certainties to ask for requests for ruling from the tax authority, and for that response to be provided within 21 days. And if any new startup incur costs while they're trying to start up their business, any costs they incur within 6 years before they commence their business will be tax deductible. Because we think that we should not punish them for taking the risk to want to start a business. This is one of the reasons why countries like the US is so successful. They support their investors, they support their entrepreneurs to take risks. And when those people succeed, the country can then share out of it. That was why Mr. President said during the inauguration, we will stop taxing capital. We will not tax investment. We do not want to tax production. We do not want to tax poverty. Of course, we do not want to tax seed. We will wait, invest with the Nigerian people, and tax the fruits. If you borrow to run your business, you no longer be punished, except you borrow from a related party and the terms are suspicious. For the sub-national government, what do we have in these bills for them? The federal government will give 5% of its share of VAT revenue to states. The federal government has also agreed that electronic money transfer that is being shared today between federal, state, and local government should go to the state 100%. It's It's also in the bills. This bill will repeal the old stamp duty law of 1939 before Nigeria got independence and introduce a new stamp duty law that is broad-based, easy to collect, and all the revenue coming from that will go to the state 100%. These bills also assign the taxing right for limited liability partnership to go to the state, not the federal government, giving them more resources to run the affairs of the subnational. These bills will also allow states to enjoy tax exemption should they issue bonds. Today, federal government bond is tax exempt. State government bond is not tax exempt. These bills are trying to correct that inequity. We must recognize that this is a federation and we must empower the subnational. A more equitable formula for sharing VAT to recognize where the income is, where the consumption takes place, and so on and so forth. I know that Ashim is trying to remind me my time is up. We had an engagement with tax professionals and CFOs. These are the most knowledgeable stakeholders we have because they deal with these issues. After our engagement with them, where we had over 3,000 online and offline, guess what? For all the participants that participated in person, the approval rate is 100%. For those who participate online, watching the recorded session, 92%. For those who did not participate at all, but have been reading what we have been putting out, approval rate is 76% overall. Nigerians who support these reforms holistically are over 90%. And the areas where we have disputes, conversations, controversies, are the issues we can iron out. These bills have more than 200 transformative provisions to fix our country and set us on the right path to prosperity. We should not allow one or two provisions that we can easily discuss and agree on.
Down of the benefits and what many needs to understand about this proposed tax reform bill by the chairman of the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, Taiwo Oyedele. And towards the last part of his conversation, he said something that is quite, interesting. He said over 90% of Nigerians are in support of this bill. And many have said that why is that figure really what it is over Nigeria, over 90% of Nigerians? Because when you look at the figures he provided as to stakeholders or post-stakeholders engagement survey, how stakeholders have been participatory and the coming up to that bill. According to him, he said participants who attended the session physically, 100%. Participants who watched the recorded session, 92%. But that's for those who support the bill. Then participants who joined the session online, 83%. Participants or respondents who did not even participate, that's 76%. And they said on a average, 88% of stakeholders for the bill. And and in his final words, he said 90% of Nigerians have thrown their way behind it. But many will question that and saying that, especially for the common man on the street who does not even know what bills or what of these bills entails. One thing that I found so interesting about this bill is that it gives room for it gives the opportunity for businesses to become formal, which many have also questioned, saying once business, take for instance the one who sells pepper on the street and all of that, it will give room for you to register your business so it will become formal. So by doing that, you will pay tax. So that's the question many are saying. When businesses become formal, then the tax will be paid. And there is this area where which Dr. Gushino elaborated on yesterday. But before we go, let me remind you that at some point, because the phone lines are started buzzing now, at some point I will open the studio line. But there's one more reaction that I want us to listen to. That from a major northerner who is the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, who was also in that stakeholders or let's say town or special town hall meeting with on the tax reform bill. He also aired his own opinion and he addressed, in some kind of way, he addressed the concerns of the North, thus enticing them to see a sort of, positivity in this bill before it is totally criticized. Let's also listen to him.
And I have them there. I have studied these bills, the two most important bills. The other two are establishment bills. And I don't intend to speak to the details because we have heard from Mr. Taiwo, who chaired the committee that produced this wonderful piece of legislation that's before the National Assembly. I've been in the National Assembly for 16 years, and I must say that I've seen very few bills that can be compared to the bills they produce in terms of quality, the originality of thought, and in terms of effect that will have on our larger economic ecosystem. Having done that, I still, as a representative that I am, I thought that it's not even good enough for me to just come here and present my opinion. So I summoned some of my brothers, leaders in their own right, across all sectors, most of them, almost all of them northerners like me, to say, come, let's look at this thing dispassionately. What is the problem? What are people complaining about? And honestly speaking, I don't begrudge noise in a democracy. As a matter of fact, the more noise your democracy generates, the more functional it is. The only problem is if you allow the noise to degenerate into violence, that is where you have a problem. And then we sit down and look at some of these major objections that are coming from across some of our leaders in the north and some of our brothers. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert. I'm here as a student. I want to learn. But because I've studied this, nothing precludes me from saying my opinion. As a matter of fact, the moment they announced, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, that I'll be participating in this discussion, my phone almost broke. So many pleaded with me. That was why I knew how important this is. Some were even pleading with me not to even show up. I said, no, but that's not leadership. Even if I disagree, I should go there and tell them that I disagree. So let's look at some of these objections that have been raised. I will address the question of leadership. And my appeal to all of us here, we are all leaders. We should remove the cap of regionalism, the cap of sectionalism, cap of religion, and put on the cap of leadership. Because that is what will resolve the current problems that we have. I think one of the major objections relates to the issue of timing. I've had this even from leaders that I respect. But in leadership, when you talk about timing, the way I have heard them talk about is a tragic misconception of the notion of time itself. Because there's nothing like future, there's nothing like the past. All we have is now, now, now. It is what you're doing now that will become your past. It is what you're doing now that will affect your future. It was Dr. King who told us that time is neutral. And without creative use of time, time itself becomes an ally of the primitive forces of social stagnation. So the answer he gave was to say that the time is always right to do right. So the question before us as leaders is not to look at what the president is doing, what our leader here, Taiwo and his committee have produced. I don't even care if it was part of the president's agenda. All I am bothered with as a leader is it the right thing?
then if we come to the conclusion that it is the right thing for us to do, then the time to do it is now, not tomorrow. So, I will resolve that issue the way I have resolved it. Secondly, I've heard about insufficient consultation. I've heard even legislators speaking as if they are spokesperson for some governors' forum or some others, instead of looking at what is right and providing solutions. Now, I don't know if he didn't address some of these issues, but I believe in the course of our interviews he will address them, whether there was enough consultation with the governors. But I want to say this, at the state level, how many people do governors consult when they're making laws? I'm not challenging them. As a matter of fact, in some cases, laws, state laws, are written from the living rooms of governors. But the truth is, we were warned long ago by Shakespeare in his famous work, Pericles, the Prince of Tyre. He said, few are those who like to hear about the sin they love to act. So, should we now stop because governors have not been brought on board, even though it is the right thing to do? Should that be an excuse, really? The answer to my mind is no. Then they talk about popularity. Oh, the bill is not popular. I want to tell this audience that what has defined us as humans, what has given us superiority as humans, most of them were not popular. Talk about the discovery of controlled fire from Homo erectus. That is what distinguishes us as human and conferred on us superiority over all other creations. But before the discovery of fire, human being was number 6 on the food chain. We made an elephant, not an elephant, a lion with a prey. Would you dare go near it? So chances were that before fire was discovered, when a lion kills its prey, it will let go. Even hyenas will come and eat. Jackals will come and feed on them. As a human being, if you had rode across baboons, you will run away. But it was fire that gave us the power to scare them away. Everything that we have is on account of controlled fire. That is what conferred us on us superiority. But if you go back to history, student of history will tell you that the idea itself of fire wasn't popular. That is the point I'm driving at. In mythology, it was said it was even one of the gods that rebelled against the Olympian gods and handed fire to man. It was out of rebellion. But now we exercise dominion based on that. Look at J.F. Kennedy, for instance. The idea to land the man on the moon wasn't popular in the U.S. If I was born and I had listened to people like my hero, Martin Luther King Jr., I would have opposed him. Because he clearly told him, why bother spending $20 billion sending the man to the moon while you can use this money to put God's creation, man, on his 2 feet? These were moral arguments. But if JFK were alive today, to see what that 20 billion he invested in putting man on the moon has done for us. Even some of these communications, some people are using internet. It's on account of the satellites that are there. But it wasn't a popular decision. Time will fail me to mention about Galileo, for instance. He died in detention for proposing that the earth was round, as against the church's teaching then that the earth was flat. Until much later, even after his death, that they discovered that he was actually right. So leaders that will make impact bother about doing what is right. If it is popular, excellent. If it is not popular, just do what is right. I move to the third objection. They have spoken about increment in VAT. I believe we will be challenged about that. Well, I don't want to say that Taiwan is perfect. I don't want to say that the president who has transmitted this bill to the National Assembly is perfect. Because perfection is an attribute of God. And no human being was ever built to receive worship. Once you begin to ascribe perfection to a human being, you are setting him up for destruction. So I agree that as lofty as the ideas are, as wonderful as the provisions of these bills are, the way he has illuminated them here, there may still be problems. There may still be problems with the bill. And of course, some have pointed it out. They don't want VAT to be raised progressively to 15%. That, of course, can be discussed. If we put on the cap of leadership, we can discuss that. It shouldn't be that because of that, the bill cannot pass. One, they have talked about the distribution formula, which is the major thing orchestrating all the crimes, especially in our region here in the north. I'm a northerner. As long as you are attributing this to the locations where these goods are consumed and not where the headquarters of the companies producing these goods are located, I'm 100% for it. You know why? Because whether we like it or not, the discussion about economic justice will not end today. So we as Northerners, we should better embrace this opportunity to create wealth, to build our people, so that we can generate wealth and ensure prosperity for our people. I know that it is difficult, but it was what John Huntsman Senior reminded us. The humans have seldom created anything of lasting value if they were not tired or hurting. So if this will get us tired as Northerners to begin to do something else and not look up onto government, if this thing can get us hurting to begin to look inwards so that we can generate wealth. After all, our fathers did it. The granite pyramids, the cotton ginneries, the multiplicity of cows, herds of cows that we have. All right. At a point, federal government was even borrowing money from northern region. Why can't we repeat this? And lastly, there are so many other issues. So they have said, okay, the word derivation is not defined in the act. I said, okay, if that's the case, you have a legitimate argument. Let's define it. But it shouldn't stop work on these bills before the National Assembly. And lastly, I want to talk to my brothers in the North. I don't think this is the time for us to begin to condemn the president and to begin to say that on account of these bills is anti-North. Because I want to remind us that the president has done something that is significant. It would be that there's no northern leader of my lifetime that has done what the president has done for the North. And I will tell you, it's the creation of the livestock ministry. This is the global business around that. The global market size of dairies, of beef. In the next 3 years, we'll rise to about $2.5 trillion. You can Google it. So if in the North we're able to organize ourselves in such a way that we can corner just 5% of this global market size of dairies and beef, I tell you, that gives us $250 billion. We don't need VAT from any state in Nigeria to survive. The North can survive. We are the most endowed part of Nigeria. And don't joke about it. If you doubt, find out from Australia how much they are raking from just mining minerals. There's gold everywhere in the north. We have all the resources. We can survive. Thank you.
So that is former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, giving his own take there. So, coupled with the former Speaker and Taiwo Yedele and some other stakeholders who were represented there, Paul Alajo is a senior economist. The people who live with disabilities were represented. Government subnationals were also represented at that town hall meeting. So, in summary, these are their concerns, those experts there. Number one, there is a call for restraint. They urge stakeholders to approach the issue with caution and restraint, considering the potential long-term benefit of the proposed reform. Second, patriotic approach. They advocated for a more patriotic and less parochial approach to addressing the issue, emphasizing the need to prioritize the national interest. The need for thorough examination. They stressed the importance of thorough examination in tax reform bills to ensure that they align with the country's economic goals and objectives. Concerns about VAT increase. They expressed concerns about the proposed increase in value-added tax, VAT, from 7.5% to 15% by 2030, citing potential negative impact on the poor and vulnerable populations. Importance of public engagement. They emphasize the need for public engagement and sensitization on tax reform bills to ensure that stakeholders understand the implications and benefits of the proposed tax reform. While this happened yesterday, criticism has not stopped, or let's say reactions has not stopped, have not stopped trailing. The People's Democratic Party and other stakeholders called for broader consultation among relevant stakeholders to address concerns over these bills, currently before the National Assembly. The PDP National Publicity Secretary Ibrahim Abdullahi said the Deputy National Leader and the Deputy National Leader or Youth Leader Timothy Osadolo wondered why President Bola Tinubu was in a hurry to pass the bill. According to him, the government needed to recognize the important implications of these bills, stressing that the collective interests of the citizens should be prioritized. That's one end. Here in Ekiti State, the Ekiti State caucus of the National Assembly have also released a statement saying that making reactions as to the tax reform bill. It is titled Tax Reform Bill Ekiti National Assembly Caucus Mobilizes Stakeholders Support, commends Tinubu's administrations for economic reform. The statement, which was released yesterday and signed by the Senator Ekiti Central Senatorial District, Senator Michael Okweyemi Bamidele, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, Senator Ekiti South Senatorial District, then Senator Cyril Fashui, Senator Ekiti North Senatorial District, and Rep. Olufemi Richard Bamishile, member representing Ekiti South Federal Constituency 2. Then Rep. Olushola Steve Fatoba, member representing Adoi Rekpodun Felodun Federal Constituency. Rep. Obiodun Emmanuel Omoleye, member representing Ekiti North Federal Constituency. Ido Simoba Ilejemeje. Then Rep. Member Rufus Sunday Ujuawo, member representing Ekiti South Federal Constituency 1. Then Rep. Akinlayo Davidson Kolawole, member representing Ekiti Ijero F1 Ekiti West Federal Constituency. And Rep. Member Akinrotimi Jr., member representing Ekiti North Federal Constituency, Ikole and Oye, they co-signed the bill, the statement, where they said that the Ekiti caucus of the National Assembly has followed the keen interest of the ongoing deliberations surrounding the 4 landmark tax reform bills currently before the National Assembly. The proposed legislations, which have been said several times, they say in a historic move, the Ekiti State caucus is proud to be the first state caucus in the National Assembly to unanimously endorse these critical tax reform bills under the leadership of Senator Michael Okwayemi Bamidele. The caucus has actively participated in consultations and engagement across the chambers of the National Assembly and remains fully committed to ensuring the passage of these bills in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. So that's the position of the caucus of Ekiti State or Ekiti State caucus at the National Assembly. 070470077701 or 0707276678. The studio lines have been buzzing since. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
This evangelist is Shola Olufemi from Okakoko. First of all, let me appreciate Adamimogo for the way you brought up this very program. Honestly, the way you handled it compared to that station, I also appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
What I want to say right now is, Olaro to me in the book, the gods are not the say when trees fail on trees, the upper is to move before the next. If Nigeria does not take care of the issue of corruption, reckless spendings, high cost of governance, insecurity, I'm very sorry, bring up the best tax reform bill, bring up the best government policy, the best constitution in Nigeria to not work. Let us take up this corruption first of all. Go and look at all this segment of the nations that are collecting tax. Go and look at how much budget they get from the government every year. Go and look at how much commission given to them from the money they make. Go and look at how much tax they get and how much is being paid to government coffers. Let's take care of this corruption. If that is not well taken care of, I'm sorry. Ask a wealthy man in Nigeria to pay 1 billion naira tax every day. They have the money to pay. They're eating fat and they're still eating fat. The end of it will come up on the head of the poor man on the street. Thank you.
Many thanks from Oka Koko there. Many thanks indeed for your take and on the show so far. You were so hard on tackling corruption and so many other areas for this tax reform to be a successful one. Thank you indeed this morning. And that's the size of the show this morning on Adamimogo 107.7 FM. The follow-up, it returns next week. And my name is Oladoyin Ayegbusi. But first, don't forget that Adamimogo Father Christmas Santa is around, and the grotto is it's quite a lovely one that you would want to always have an experience of. So registration is ongoing at the moment. You can always walk in here and make your kids, your words, to have memorable and lovely experiences. My name is Oladoyin Ayegbusi. I'll see you next week on another edition of the follow-up on Adamimogo 107.7 FM. Good morning and enjoy the